The alarm bell screamed through Earth's orbital station as something massive slammed into Docking Bay 7. Emergency lights flashed red as workers scrambled away from the twisted wreckage of what looked like a living ship. The hull wasn't. Made of metal but some kind of organic material that pulsed weakly like a dying heartbeat. Captain Vexthal dragged himself from the pilot's seat, his scaled hide torn and bleeding green fluid. The reptilian alien stood nearly 8 feet tall when upright, but now he hunched over, clutching his injured arm. His ship was dying around him, and he knew it. The biocruiser that had carried him across 3 galaxies was shutting down system by system. Great, he hissed through sharp teeth. Stuck on a primitive world with primitives who probably think fire is advanced technology. That's when the bay doors opened and Minho walked in. The human engineer was shorter than most of his species, stocky and covered in grease stains that told the story of a life spent fixing things. He carried a toolbox that looked ancient compared to galactic standards, but his eyes were already analyzing the crashed ship with an intensity that made Vexthal uncomfortable. "Well, that's something you don't see every day," Minho said, walking around the biocruiser. "Organic hull, neural network integration, quantum drive systems. Whoever built this knew what they were doing." Vexthal blinked his large yellow eyes. This human was identifying advanced technologies that most species couldn't even recognize. "You know what those are?" "Sure. We've been studying quantum mechanics for decades, though I've never seen it applied quite like this." Minho pulled out a small device and scanned the ship's energy signature. "Your power distribution is completely wrong, though. No wonder you got caught by pirates." The alien's jaw dropped. This primitive human was criticizing technology that was thousands of years more advanced than anything on Earth. "Wrong? This ship represents the pinnacle of Galactic Union engineering." Minho shrugged and started pulling panels off the ship's control systems. "Maybe that's the problem. Sometimes the old ways aren't the best ways." He studied the exposed circuits and began sketching on his data pad. "Look at this energy flow pattern. You're losing 30% efficiency right here and another 20% here. It's like you designed this thing to be slow." Vexthal watched in growing amazement as the human identified problems that the ship's own diagnostic systems had never detected. "How could you possibly understand our technology?" "Because good engineering is good engineering, no matter who builds it." Minho was already connecting his tools to the ship's systems. "Your people might be more advanced, but you're playing it safe. Humans don't really do safe." The biocruiser's systems were failing rapidly. Lights flickered and died as power cores went offline one by one. Without repairs, the ship would be completely dead within hours. Vexthal faced a choice that went against everything he'd been taught about inferior species. "Fine," he said reluctantly. "Attempt your repairs, but don't blame me when you electrocute yourself on systems beyond your comprehension." Minho grinned and dove into the ship's neural network with the enthusiasm of someone who loved impossible challenges. His hands moved with practiced skill as he traced circuits and identified problems that had been plaguing the ship for years. The human's confidence was infectious, even if it seemed completely misplaced. "Your neural pathways are all tangled up," Minho observed, rewiring connections with casual expertise. "It's like your ship is trying to think through mud. No wonder. Your reaction times are slow." As the human worked, something impossible began happening. The ship's systems started responding better than they had in years. Lights that had flickered weakly began glowing steadily. Power readings that had been dropping suddenly stabilized and began climbing. Vexthal stared at his instrument panels in disbelief. "How are you doing this?" "Simple. I'm not just fixing what's broken. I'm fixing what was never right in the first place." Minho pulled up the ship's power distribution diagram and pointed to several areas. "See these bottlenecks? Your designers put them there on purpose, probably as safety features, but they're keeping your ship from reaching its full potential." The alien captain felt his worldview shifting. His people prided themselves on technological superiority, but this human was treating their most advanced systems like child's toys. Even worse, he was improving them. "This is impossible," Vexthal whispered. "That's what makes it fun," Minho replied, his hands already deep in the ship's quantum drive assembly. 3 hours into the repairs, the docking bay doors hissed open again. Gina walked in carrying equipment that made Vexthal's scales stand on end. The human woman was taller than Minho, with calloused hands and the same intense focus in her eyes. But what she carried defied everything the alien thought he knew about human technology. "Brought the good stuff," she announced, setting down cases filled with devices that hummed with barely contained energy. "Figured you might need these if we're really going to fix this bucket." Vexthal stared at the equipment. "Those are quantum amplifiers and gravitational field regulators. How do humans possess such technology?" Gina exchanged a look with Minho. "Let's just say we've been busy while the galaxy wasn't watching." The alien captain felt a chill run down his spine. Human technology was supposed to be centuries behind the rest of the galaxy. These devices suggested otherwise. "Such equipment is restricted to only the most advanced civilizations. The power requirements alone should be impossible for your species." "Should be, could be, supposed to be," Minho said, not looking up from the ship's neural network. "Humans have this habit of doing things that should be impossible." Gina began unpacking her equipment with the casual confidence of someone who understood exactly what she was dealing with. "Your ship's interesting, Captain. All this beautiful biotechnology, but it's being held back by your safety systems." "Safety systems exist for good reasons," Vexthal protested. "They prevent catastrophic failures that could destroy the ship and everyone aboard. They also prevent your ship from being everything it could be." Gina connected one of her devices to the biocruiser's main power conduit. "Look at these limiters. Your people installed them to keep power output at safe levels. But safe isn't fast, and it definitely isn't powerful." She began bypassing safety protocols with the ease of someone disarming a child's toy. Warning lights flashed across the ship's control panels as systems that had been locked down for safety reasons suddenly came online. The biocruiser's hull began to pulse with new energy. "Stop!" Vexthal lunged forward, but Minho gently blocked his path. "You're going to overload the entire system." "Only if we do it wrong," Gina replied calmly. She was installing what she called emergency overrides, devices that would allow the ship to operate far beyond its designed parameters. "Your people build ships like they're afraid of them. Every system has 3 backup systems, and every backup has a safety net. Because ships that operate beyond safe parameters explode," the alien captain said desperately. "Ships built by people who are afraid of their own technology explode," Minho corrected. "Ships built by people who understand their technology do amazing things." Gina was now rerouting bioneural pathways, connecting the ship's organic computer directly to her quantum amplifiers. The modifications she was making violated every principle of safe engineering that Vexthal had been taught. Neural networks weren't supposed to carry that much power. Quantum drives weren't supposed to operate without multiple safety buffers. "This is madness," he whispered, watching readouts climb into dangerous territory. "You're turning my ship into a bomb." "We're turning your ship into what it should have been from the beginning," Gina said, welding connections that made sparks fly. "Your designers were brilliant, but they were too scared to let their creation reach its full potential." The biocruiser was transforming around them. Systems that had been dormant for safety reasons suddenly awakened. The ship's organic hull began resonating with new frequencies as Gina's gravitational regulators integrated with the existing biotechnology. What had been a reliable but limited vessel was becoming something unprecedented. "Your people don't understand," Minho explained as he made final adjustments to the neural network. "Humans have a saying, 'Nothing ventured, nothing gained.' You can't discover new possibilities if you're too afraid to take risks. But the regulations, the safety protocols, the testing procedures," Vexthal protested weakly, "were all written by people who never imagined technology like this." Gina finished connecting her equipment and stepped back to admire her work. "Sometimes you have to break the rules to find out what's really possible." The ship's power readings were now fluctuating wildly, but somehow staying stable. The bioneural network was processing information at rates that should have caused it to burn out. The quantum drives were building energy reserves that exceeded every safety recommendation in galactic engineering manuals. "This shouldn't work," Vexthal said, staring at impossible readings on his instruments. "But it does," Minho grinned. That's the beautiful thing about not knowing something is impossible. It leaves room for it to be possible instead. The modifications were complete. The ship was ready for testing, and despite every instinct screaming that this was dangerous beyond measure, Vexthal found himself curious about what his transformed vessel could actually do. Vexthal stood in his transformed ship, staring at instrument panels that showed readings he'd never seen before. Every rational part of his mind screamed that this was suicide. The modifications these humans had made violated centuries of established engineering wisdom. Yet the ship felt different now, alive in a way it had never been before. "We should run ground tests first," he said, his voice uncertain. "Simulate. Different conditions, check all systems thoroughly." Minho was already strapping himself into the co-pilot seat with the enthusiasm of someone about to ride the galaxy's most dangerous roller coaster. "Ground tests won't tell us what we need to know. This ship was built to fly, not sit in a hangar. Besides," Gina added, securing her equipment, "some things you can only discover by doing them." The alien captain felt his resolve weakening. His ship had been dying just hours ago, and now it hummed with power that made his scales tingle. Against every instinct his species had developed over millennia of cautious space travel, he found himself moving toward the pilot's seat. "Just a short flight," he said, more to convince himself than the humans. "We stay in Earth's solar system and run basic maneuvers." "Whatever you say, Captain," Minho grinned, but his eyes held the gleam of someone who knew they were about to break every speed record in the galaxy. The biocruiser lifted off from the docking bay with a smoothness that surprised Vexthal. The ship had always been responsive, but now it moved like an extension of his thoughts. They cleared Earth's atmosphere in minutes, and the star field opened up before them. "Okay," Vexthal said, his clawed hands hovering over the controls. "Let's see what your modifications have done." The moment he engaged the new systems, reality changed. The ship didn't accelerate in the traditional sense. Instead, it seemed to slip between the spaces in space itself, flowing through the void, like liquid mercury. The sensation was unlike anything Vexthal had ever experienced. His ship wasn't pushing against the resistance of space-time anymore. It was dancing with it. "Holy stars," he whispered, as the velocity readings climbed beyond anything he thought possible. Earth became a blue dot in seconds. Mars flashed past like a red blur. The asteroid belt that should have taken hours to traverse disappeared behind them in minutes. The ship moved with a grace that defied physics, surfing gravitational fields and riding solar winds with impossible efficiency. "Look at those readings," Minho shouted over the harmonious hum of the biodrives. "We're not just breaking speed records, we're rewriting them." The stars began to stretch into lines of light as they approached velocities that transformed the familiar void into something magical. What had once been distinct points of light became flowing streams of color that painted cosmic highways across their vision. The ship's biohull resonated with frequencies that turned space travel into music. Vexthal gripped his command throne as sensations he had no words for washed over him. His species had been traveling space for thousands of years, but they had never experienced this. They had been crawling when they could have been soaring, walking when they could have been dancing. "This is impossible," he breathed, watching Jupiter shrink to nothing in their wake. "We're moving faster than our fastest military vessels, and the ship isn't even straining." "That's because we're not fighting physics anymore," Gina explained, monitoring the bio-neural networks that were adapting to their new environment in real time. "We're working with it. Your ship was designed to do this, but your people were too scared to let it." The outer planets of the solar system flashed past like stepping stones. Neptune's blue atmosphere created beautiful patterns as they skipped across its gravitational field, using the planet's mass to slingshot them even faster toward the edge of the system. "We should slow down," Vexthal said, but his voice lacked conviction. The experience was intoxicating. For the first time in his life, space travel felt like pure freedom, instead of careful navigation between dangers. "Are you kidding?" Minho laughed, his face pressed against the viewport as interstellar space opened up before them. "We're just getting started." The biocruiser burst out of the solar system and into the void between stars, moving at speeds that compressed space-time around them. The ship's organic systems were adapting and evolving in real time, learning to extract energy from cosmic radiation and gravitational fields in ways that shouldn't have been possible. Vexthal realized he was laughing. Actually laughing with pure joy, as his ship performed cosmic ballet moves that no vessel in galactic history had ever achieved. The humans had done more than repair his ship. They had awakened it. "Where to, Captain?" Minho asked, his hands all ready, reaching for controls that would take them even deeper into impossible territory. The ship had been flying at impossible speeds for what felt like hours when Suyon arrived on the bridge. The third human team member had been monitoring their flight from the engineering deck, and her face showed a mixture of excitement and disbelief that made Vextal's stomach clench with worry. "Captain," she said, her voice breathless, "we need to talk about where we are." Vextal looked at his navigation systems and felt his blood turn cold. The star patterns outside bore no resemblance to any known charts. They had traveled so far and so fast that they were completely lost in uncharted space. "How far from Earth are we?" he asked, dreading the answer. "About 4,000 light-years," Suyon replied casually, as if discussing the weather. "Give or take a few hundred." The alien captain's jaw dropped. 4,000 light-years. That's impossible. We've only been flying for 3 hours. Time gets weird when you're moving this fast, Minho explained, still grinning like a child with a new toy. The ship isn't just traveling through space anymore. It's bending space around itself. As if to prove his point, the cosmos outside began to shift in ways that hurt to look at directly. Space itself seemed to be twisting, creating patterns of light and darkness that resembled nothing Vextal had ever seen. His ship was flying through regions where the normal laws of physics became more like gentle suggestions. "Look at this," Suyon said, pulling up readings from the biohull sensors. "The ship is resonating with gravitational waves from that neutron star cluster ahead. It's not just detecting them, it's riding them like ocean waves." The biocruiser began to move in ways that defied description. Instead of flying in straight lines, it started surfing invisible currents in space-time itself. The sensation was like being inside a living creature that was swimming through an ocean of pure energy. "This shouldn't be possible," Vextal whispered, watching his ship dance between gravitational fields that should have torn it apart. "No vessel can survive in regions like this." "No conventional vessel," Gina corrected. "But your ship was never conventional to begin with. The biotechnology is adapting faster than we expected." She was right. The organic hull was actually growing, stronger as it absorbed energy from the cosmic phenomena around them. The bioneural networks were learning to predict and respond to gravitational changes before they happened. The ship was evolving in real time. Ahead of them, space began to twist into what looked like a tunnel of swirling stars. Suyon's instruments went wild as they approached what could only be described as a natural wormhole, a tear in reality itself that connected distant regions of the galaxy. "We should avoid that," Vextal said, but his hands weren't moving to change course. Something about the cosmic phenomenon was beautiful beyond words. "Actually," Suyon said, studying her readings with growing excitement, "I think the ship wants to go through it." She was right. The biocruiser was being drawn toward the wormhole like a moth to flame. But instead of being destroyed by the massive gravitational forces, the ship began to resonate with them. The organic hull sang with harmonics that matched the frequency of twisted space-time. "Look at that," Suyon breathed, her eyes wide with wonder. "We're not traveling through space anymore, we're dancing with it." The ship slipped into the wormhole with the grace of a dolphin diving into water. Reality became fluid around them as they traveled through folded space-time. Stars and galaxies flashed past like dreams, and Vextal realized he was experiencing something no member of his species had ever imagined possible. "This is what space travel should feel like," he said, his voice filled with awe. "Not the careful crawl from system to system that we've always done, but this cosmic dance." The wormhole deposited them in a region where massive storms of pure energy raged between dimensions. Lightning made of collapsed matter arced between floating islands of crystallized space-time. It was a cosmic hurricane that would have been instant death for any normal vessel. Instead, the biocruiser rode the energy storms like a surfer riding perfect waves. The ship's living systems absorbed power from the dimensional lightning, growing stronger with each bolt that struck its hull. What should have been destruction became a source of strength. "Your people have been thinking too small," Suyon observed, watching the ship dance through phenomena that existed at the very edge of reality. "You've been treating space like an obstacle to overcome instead of a partner to dance with." Vexthal nodded, unable to speak as his transformed ship performed impossible maneuvers through storms that raged between the walls of existence itself. The humans had done more than modify his vessel. They had taught it to truly live. The journey back to Earth took only minutes, but it felt like returning from another universe. Vexthal's biocruiser slipped through dimensions and surfed gravitational waves with the easy grace of a creature born to swim in the cosmic ocean. When Earth's familiar blue marble appeared in their viewports, the alien captain felt like he was seeing his first sunrise after a lifetime of darkness. "That was incredible," he said, his voice still shaking from the experience. "In all my years of space travel, I never imagined anything like that was possible." The ship settled into Earth's orbital station with barely a whisper, its bio-hull still glowing with absorbed cosmic energy. Other vessels in the docking bay looked primitive by comparison, like wooden boats next to a living sea creature. Word of their impossible flight had already spread through the station's communication networks. "Captain," Minho said as they powered down the transformed systems, "we need to talk." Vexthal turned to face the three humans who had changed everything he thought he knew about space travel. Their casual confidence had been replaced by something deeper, the look of people who had touched the infinite and understood its implications. "My people will never believe what we've accomplished here," the alien captain said. "A ship that can travel 4,000 light-years in hours, that can dance through dimensional storms, that grows stronger instead of weaker when facing impossible conditions." "Then maybe it's time they learned," Suyon suggested. "Your biotechnology is amazing, but it's being held back by fear. Our innovation is powerful, but it needs your organic systems to reach its full potential." Vexthal made a decision that would have seemed impossible just days ago. "I want you to come with me, all of you, as permanent crew members aboard my vessel." The humans exchanged glances. They had jobs on Earth, lives and responsibilities in human space. But what they had experienced during their cosmic dance had changed them too. "What exactly are you proposing?" Gina asked. "A partnership," Vexthal said, his scaled hands gesturing to the transformed ship around them. "We combine your innovation with our biotechnology. We build ships that don't just travel through space, but live in it. We show the galaxy what's really possible when different species work together instead of apart." The idea was revolutionary. For centuries, each species had jealously guarded their technological secrets. The Galactic Union was built on careful treaties and limited exchanges of information. What Vexthal was suggesting would shatter those boundaries. "My people have been thinking too small, too safely," he admitted. "We perfected biotechnology and then spent centuries making sure it never exceeded safe parameters. You've shown me. That safe isn't the same as optimal." Within weeks, their first joint project was taking shape in Earth's orbital shipyards. The new vessel combined the best of both technologies, organic biohulls that could adapt and evolve, paired with human, quantum drives that ignored traditional limitations, neural networks that could think and feel, enhanced by human artificial intelligence that never stopped learning. The ship they built was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. It moved like poetry through space, its organic systems responding to cosmic phenomena, with the joy of a dolphin playing in ocean currents. Test flights shattered every existing speed record and opened up regions of space that had been considered unreachable. News of their success spread through galactic communication, networks faster than their ships could fly. Other species, initially skeptical of human capabilities, began sending delegations to Earth. The Crystalline Empire wanted to understand how humans had bypassed quantum limitations. The Hive collectives were fascinated by human unpredictability and creative chaos. "I never expected this," Vexthal said, watching another alien delegation arrive at Earth's increasingly busy orbital facilities. "When I crashed here, I thought I was stranded on a primitive world. Instead, I found the missing piece that our technology needed. The human team had grown into a full engineering corps, working with alien partners from dozens of species. Each collaboration produced new innovations that seemed impossible until they became inevitable. Ships that could phase through solid matter, vessels that powered themselves by eating cosmic radiation, craft that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. This is just the beginning, Minho said, reviewing plans for their latest design. Every species in the galaxy has been developing technology in isolation for thousands of years. Imagine what we can accomplish when we really start sharing ideas. The galaxy was changing. Humans, once dismissed as a young and reckless species, were now sought after as partners and innovators. Their reputation for making the impossible seem routine had transformed from a curious footnote into the foundation of a new age of exploration. Vexthal looked out at the stars and smiled. His people had taught him that space was vast and dangerous, something to be crossed carefully with proper precautions. The humans had shown him something better, that space was infinite and beautiful, a cosmic dance floor waiting for partners brave enough to join the music.